Welcome to The Truth in Its Heart, your source for conversations at the intersection of arts, culture, and community. I am your host, Rob Lee, and I'm excited for today's guest. He is the visionary founder and CEO of a global movement, Secret Walls, that has transformed live art into thrilling competitions, merging creativity and community. We'll be discussing the Art of Competition tour kicking off later this month, which will be taking Secret Walls to new heights. Please welcome Terry Guy. Welcome to the podcast.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you having me on. Coming in from the UK.
Appreciate you coming on as well. And as has been a running theme, right? You know, there's some visual elements for this pod, but mostly audio. Whenever a guest comes on and they're bespectacled, when they're wearing their glasses, I have to thank them for wearing their glasses. As a four-eyed gentleman myself, thank you for wearing your glasses.
Yeah, and these ones are big as well. I've got a few pairs, but this is like my biggest, heaviest frame, so I'm constantly just pushing them back up. But I do like my glasses, which is why I've got four pairs.
That's great. That's great. I like that you wear your biggest and heaviest ones. It's almost like it makes you. I have a certain pair. I had three pair. I have one that I wear specifically when I go to like openings. They're kind of round or they're circular tortoise. And I was like, I need to wear a scarf with this. I need to look as pretentious as possible, just so I can feel like I fit in.
Yeah. These ones, these are the Meta glasses as well. So they've got the cameras on them. I'm not recording because it'd have the little light on, but I use these as prescription, and then we actually record a lot of social content at the studio. So we've all got a pair of these like crazy spy glasses, which is good fun for the events.
I love that. That's really cool. Now you're almost selling a ticket that I may have to look into getting a pair for myself. But glasses aside, let's dive into some of my usual request. I like to start off the podcast asking my guests to introduce themselves. I think often, we have these really glossy bios, and I can read the bio. I did read the bio, but I want to hear it directly from the guest. So if you will, in your own words, introduce yourself.
Yeah. My name's Terry Guy, a Brit that lives in LA. Been out in the US for 15 years now. I'm the founder of Secret Walls, which is a live arts entertainment company, famously known, I suppose, for the live paint battles that we do across the world. Started those in London nearly 20 years ago. And these days, I suppose 90% of our kind of events and activations are set in the US. Obviously that's the big market, LA, Hollywood, center of entertainment, and obviously an amazing kind of playground of street art and graffiti and illustration and everything else that I love. So
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the intro. And it definitely like pokes at a few of the things we'll be talking about a bit more in depth later as we go along. But I'm curious about this, and this is going to keep you on your toes early. When I see visionary, right? So I think of big ideas. I think of something that is unique, something that's grand, something that, it's just like, oh, this is the next thing. This is the next wave. But I think a lot of times these big ideas come at us at the most unexpected and like sort of everyday moments, with years of experience. I read that in your bio, years of experience in the art world and around the art world. Where do your ideas typically come from?
Yeah, I was actually talking about this the other day with a friend, trying to rewind 20 years. I'm 42 now. Came out of uni. I'm a country boy. I'm from a little island in England, like a super sleepy little Jurassic Victorian island. No graffiti. There's no kind of street culture. It's just me and my buddies kind of hanging out on the beach or running around the forest. Got to London, fast forward, 16, 17, and that's when I got exposed to the first stickers on lampposts and the tags and kind of the stuff I was seeing in movies. And then coming out of uni, I did animation. I struggled. I was just talking about it. I struggled for the first year with a degree to just find myself and find my place in this creative world. I was doing all kinds of internships and working for free and all kinds of crazy little jobs. And I think the pressure and the environment, obviously, of London, a super city, um, and the pressure of not having any money and trying to figure out how you pay the rent while I'm eating like beans on toast every day. And just trying to think about the biggest, best idea, and the craziest idea possible with $0 is kind of what created Secret Walls.
Yeah.
Because I was sat in my bedroom, just really like I'd just come back from a b-boy battle event. I'd seen the energy of the hip hop battle, the rappers battling on stage, and then there was the b-boy standoff. I saw the energy of the room. It was my first time I'd seen anything like that. Saw the graffiti on the walls, met a few artists. Um, they were in the shadows, and the dancing and the music was on in the kind of foreground.
Sure.
So something in my head triggered, and it was like, let's try that same thing, but spin it around and put the art on stage. But it wasn't just that. I had to walk, like, kind of go away and think about it for a few weeks and try and figure out a format. But it was under a lot of pressure, to be honest. It was kind of, maybe in my head, I got a few months, of money left before I had to move back in with the parents. So I had to try something a little bit crazy. So we put that first event on, and I suppose, yeah, the rest is history. It kind of just packed out, did
Yeah.
another one, got busier, and we started traveling, the UK and Europe.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers the question, but definitely pressure, movies, comics, the art that I was kind of consuming, the people around me. I was just lucky enough to be in the right place, right time, I'm sure. But you've obviously got to put yourself in those spaces, right? So I was just jumping around London I was trying to take it all in as quickly as possible.
And thank you. So in taking it all in, I find like for me, even now, like when you're, let's say, generating new ideas, new approaches with sort of what you're doing with Secret Walls now that it's established, it's been around, it's doing its thing, but keeping
Yeah.
it sort of fresh and keeping those newer and unique perspectives. How does that hit you now, maybe compared to sort of where you set that foundation of this is when this idea hit me? How do ideas hit you now?
Yeah. Well, I was actually trying to think, how do I go back into that pressure cooker?
Ah,
Obviously, under different circumstances. I was trying to like time travel in my head a little bit. And I was trying to figure out like how I put myself back in that pressure cooker to think about the next big idea. Cause, that's the kind of person I am. I'm entrepreneurial. I'm always trying to figure out, well, what's the next thing that can kind of support Secret Walls, but might be a little bit different, but is in the kind of art space and is helping the same community. Um, but it's a lot harder to recreate that, is what I'm finding. And also, I'm running an established business with employees, and we've got a ton of stuff on. There's all good stuff, but there's just live projects and traveling, and I have a family now, so there's all the personal stuff as well. So I suppose the distractions and the kind of environment is a lot different from back in the day when it was just me, 20-year-old, broke me, kind of just trying to figure out the one thing that needed to go well. So yeah, I'm trying to get back into that room. Even just the world of social media didn't really exist when we started. So there was, I suppose, more time. When you think about the amount of time we all spend on our devices
yeah,
and just procrastinating sometimes, thinking that we're being inspired by scrolling the never-ending timeline. But back then, it was, I think, MySpace had just kind of kicked off,
yeah,
so it was very limited on the social media. So all the promotion for the events was kind of paper flyers and street posters and word of mouth. So I suppose I had a lot more time on my hands with the internet being a little bit, I suppose, in its infant stages back then.
yeah.
Probably helps in different ways.
When I'm out there like gathering, stuff for I call it just noticing, right? When I'm gathering like, all right, who do I want to talk to? Whose work is interesting? I just did a interview with a muralist that's based in Chicago. I'm based in Baltimore in the east part of, US, and in Baltimore, Maryland. And I was in Chicago and I'm just walking. I walk everywhere, right? And
Yeah.
happened to see like an image for this mural, and the mural was way in one of like the tallest buildings in Chicago. And I just, did the QR code, grabbed the person's information, pinged them right there in the middle. and it's just like in the middle of the day, and it's just noticing. And it's just certain
Hmm.
things that kind of grab my eye. And I just trust my taste now when I'm out there, but also I have to be out there. So I can't help but think about when you were describing sort of being around it, as you were saying, 20
Yeah.
plus years ago, being around it, you're able to see like if you're not around it, you're not in the scene, then you're not aware of it. So you're not aware
Mhm.
to have like a perspective on it and seeing sort of what that shift could look like, that innovation.
Yeah, again, right time, right place in that. As I was formulating the sequels plan,
Yeah.
Banksy, it was early Banksy as well, right? So you've got this Banksy explosion that no one obviously could forecast. He was out there. I remember seeing some of his work for a couple of £100 that I wish I would have bought. I just walked past it. Um, but I was going to those shows. I was going to the early D-Face shows. He's now a beast, big UK artist. Kind of, I suppose, the cause of the UK. I remember some of the legendary US artists were coming into the UK for the first time, and these shows were kind of hard to find. It was all a little bit underground. East London wasn't what it is today. Shoreditch wasn't kind of the same. It was very different. Now it's very gentrified and kind of part of the city. But I was just lucky enough to be in those spaces, I suppose, and I was kind of sucking it all in. And I suppose as I was building my thing, we all kind of, I suppose, rode the same wave, and
Yeah.
it just over that first few years just really benefited as Banksy exploded. That door, I suppose, opened, even wider for everyone else to kind of find an opportunity to make a few dollars. But yeah, keeping your eyes open. That's always been, now I'm the same for sure. Like I always looking for new talent. Same as you, walk the cities. Always done that. Take a lot of photos, take a lot of notes. Back then, obviously, DMing someone was a lot harder.
Yeah.
Tracking that person down was a lot harder, but maybe more fun because it was more difficult. These days, you can kind of find an email or a DM pretty quickly. I get quick responses these days because of the brand that we've built, which
Yeah.
is, kind of appreciative of that. The fact that I can reach out to big artists that I don't know, and they might not all want to do the show, but they're all pretty uh, positive in. I love Secret Wars. Yeah, let's battle. Without asking questions, or I love it. Bit nervous, maybe not my cup of tea, but let's connect and figure out a project together. So it's a different world for me now in connecting those dots. But back then it was really fun, kind of just slowly building your contacts literally in a paper book rather than your actual iPhone. So I'm making myself sound like a dinosaur, but it definitely felt like a different world back then.
We're almost the same age, so I'm on the same page. I keep that paper thing. I keep the notepad with me. It's something about writing it down versus
Yeah.
I can easily just find the person. It's just like I think writing it down, I commit it to memory a little bit more, and it's a bit more of an intention versus let me look at who I recently searched for, and it
Mhm.
feels like less disposable if I have it on paper for some reason. I don't
Yeah.
know. And I usually have, like my backpack, I had my laptop in it earlier, and I'm always like moving around. I got a recorder, a laptop, I got my go bag, and I have a day job that, this is unrelated, and I
Yeah.
had, I think, four different notepads that I've been working out of. One has like Chicago, one has Philadelphia, and one that just has local. And I go back to that either for questions or just ideas. And yeah, and I'll even put down like what's the person's Instagram handle just to see if I'm, really interested in taking sort of that next step. And before I move into this next question, one thing that you touched on there is sort of that notoriety, right? When folks are aware of what you're doing, aware of the brand. I've encountered that as well. Like in part, that's kind of how we're having this conversation. I was like, oh, really? I was like, Secret Waltz is kind of like huge. What's happening? How did this happen? And even when I reach out to people in 5 years, I've done almost 800 interviews.
Oh
And the
wow.
first year, I barely had 20.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where people are aware of what I do and seeing sort of what the brand is ultimately. So
Yeah.
for you, for folks that don't get it, let's talk about what makes Secret Walls stand out amongst the sort of art world, amongst the sort of competition and sort of the art businesses. Talk a bit about that using business term, the competitive advantage.
Yeah, yeah. I never really built the brand. It was never meant to be built as a business, which is kind of maybe like maybe that helped me in the long run because I was building it with just a passionate kind of how can I do something different? At first, even though I was struggling to make a few dollars, I wasn't really in my head. I wasn't really thinking, how am I going to make $1 million? What's the business model? I wasn't thinking about any structure, any of that structure. It was, how can I put on something really cool, make a few new friends in this space, and
Yeah,
just see what comes out of it. And that's kind of what we did. And it just kept building one by one. But I suppose organically building it back to front in a way helped me kind of create that like moat around the brand or that competitive advantage to other collectives or companies or people coming into this space. It's hard for someone it's a very niche business as well, which I think helps me in many ways. It's not a mainstream kind of creative service. What we do is very different. So that puts us in a little box. But I think that in the old days, it was very hard to kind of make that, like fly that flag and make some money and like hit a brand up and say, collab with us with Secret Rules, the art, the paint battle guys. Everybody be like, what? But these days with street art and graffiti and the culture's kind of in a different level now. It's like a serious kind of $1 billion industry with Cause, Banksy, and all that leading the way, and collectors being of all shapes and sizes. From $20, you can get a nice print and become a collector to spending 25 million on a painting.
yeah,
It's changed the game a lot, and obviously street art is in advertising and on TV, on billboards, it's everywhere. Back then, it was definitely maybe a frowned upon kind of vandals sport, if you like. The artists were all struggling to make ends meet. So it, that yeah, it's a different world. But going back to the brand, I think the moat was built in the early days from doing the back to front thing and creating those relationships with the artists. And obviously, it's all around the artists. Without the artists, Secret Rules doesn't exist. So even with my idea, it takes the thousands of artists that have participated to have created the story and kind of helped me create something really special. And that's what I remind myself of pretty much every day. Artist relationships are key. You're only as powerful as the art world and the artist kind of speaking good words about you. The
yeah,
moment the art world kind of or the artist dislike what we do or decide that we're irrelevant is the day that Secret Rules kind of just falls off the track. So I'm always trying to evolve. I'm always listening to artists, always trying to figure out how we get better, how we get bigger with them in mind, and, how we will make money together and kind of win together. So yeah, I think that's key. It's relationships. It's the IP obviously is pretty simple. Anybody could copy it. I can't trademark all the stuff that we've done around the event. Some of it we can't protect. I mean, I've trademarked certain things, but anyone can go and create a paint battle event, and many have. But what kind of keeps me calm is most of the art world and most fans and anybody with half a clue in this world kind of knows we did it first in the way that we've done it. We're definitely not the first paint battle ever. Obviously, graffiti coming out of Philly and New York and I'm sure Baltimore. Back in the 80s and the 70s, like there was graffiti battles long before my time.
yeah,
So that existed, but in the format that we created, really all I did was fuse soccer, one of my other passions, with street art, and I created a bunch of made up rules that I thought would be fun to, there's like 90 minutes on the clock, black paint only. I just kind of made that stuff up because it sounded cool and
yeah,
it felt right. Some people have tried to copy that, but it always falls flat because people know that we were the originals in that space. So Yeah, it's a weird one. It's kind of, again, not by design, but we've kind of created a bit of a moat because of that.
Thank you. And I heard so many things that I relate to that I was trying not. I wanted to let you cook there because I was like, look, man, I was
Yeah,
like, Terry's saying that
yeah,
real stuff right now. But
yeah,
yeah, I'll say like, thank you because the relationship piece, right? It's so important. And, as I said, the number I said of how many of these I've done, I
yeah.
was already a podcaster for 10 years before I even dove into doing these interviews, and so that's, I guess, my mode of like having that background of experience. And then over this last 5 years, building trust, building a brand, and sort of having these relationships. And just saying, hey, a lot of times this is the first time someone has come on to talk about their work. So
Hmm.
there's a certain degree of I don't want them to look bad in their first interview talking about their work. So those are
Yeah,
considerations and maintaining those relationships. And the other thing that I heard there that really I wanted to snap, where it's this thing where there's a lot of imitators.
yeah,
I joke about it. I've been in the last year, I've been able to teach podcasting to, high school students and college students. So I've been able to do that. And one of the things I've mentioned in my classes, I was like, do something that feels unique for you. Do something that you want to do. There's going to be so many people that are going to copy what's trending and what's popping, but it's not an original idea. There are
hmm,
so many people that I've seen who try to do a version of what I do. And sure, they can do it and have conversations with interesting people, but I'm still me. And what I bring to it is still that. That's what makes it unique. My sort of approach to it and the amount of work that I'm doing. And that's the same thing I was hearing in your bit on Secret Walls and its advantages.
yeah, yeah. No, I think it's hard. I mean, I always think about this, like, is sequels an original idea? Yeah, yeah, in a way, because I came up with a rule set and created a thing that became global and kind of has done very well. But I feel like in this day and age, everything's a kind of a remix of a remix of a remix, right? It's like, again, graffiti battles existed before, so I'm sure subconsciously that was in my head as I was cooking Secret Wars. I definitely had Warriors, the movie, in my head. I definitely had Fight Club in my head. I was definitely thinking about Secret Wars, the comic, the Marvel 80s comic, where all the characters got sucked into a planet and had to battle it out. That was a big inspo for me. I was thinking about soccer, football. So all that was in my head. So I'm really just taking bits from different things
Yeah.
and I'm creating a bit of a Frankenstein that is definitely an original idea in one way, but was also inspired by many things. And I suppose, is there a pure idea these days that you could prove has not been inspired by anything? Maybe that's impossible. I'm not sure. I can't think of anything that comes to mind. I think it's pretty hard, but I don't know if you need to go that extreme anyway. I think as long as you've put the effort into kind of take your references, respect those references, turn it into your thing, add your mark to it and your personality, like you said, then that's enough. People will kind of appreciate that and see that your thing's different from the 100 other things that are out there. And that's in your world of podcasts, in my world of live arts, it's a busy world now, right? There's a new one every day. So I think that's fun. I kind of embrace that competition as well. I think 20 years in, as long as I've always said, I've had people come up to me and say, "Hey, can I do my own paint battle?" I can't. Different reasons. It'd be like, "Oh, I'm in so and so country. I know you guys can't get here,
Yeah.
and we don't have a sponsor to get you here, or there's no budget to play with. Can I do Secret Wars?" And I'm like, "Well, you know, we don't really just let people do Secret Wars and kind of run with it. But I always encourage them, just do your own paint battle.
Yeah.
Pick a color, choose a different time on the clock, find your own artists, and just remix it in a way where it's respectful and different from Secret Wars. And I fully support that, but just don't, copy and paste and just try and rip someone off. I think that's obviously just lazy. But we've had a couple of those before, and again, they fail pretty quickly. But for those that have actually figured out and created their own concept, some of them are doing really well, and I support that because our world is niche, and I think we need more competition in our little space of kind of live art to create hopefully a bigger, you know, ecosystem for the artists that we serve. So I think it's actually beneficial. It keeps us all on our toes. So I'm all for that.
So what you're saying to me, what I'm hearing is I should do a live paint battle in Baltimore that it has
Hmm.
9 minutes on the clock, and we use
There you
blue.
go. Blue paint, yeah, same as the background.
Absolutely. Uh-huh. It's mine.
The fun thing is Baltimore is one of the last cities in the US, one of the last big cities that I can think of that we've not battled in. For whatever reason, I don't have any contacts in Baltimore, so you're contact number one. So we should talk after the show because
Absolutely.
I've always wanted to do Baltimore. Obviously, I've seen TV shows and I watched a lot of movies, so I know that there's obviously an art scene there from just looking from afar through Instagram and stuff, but we've just never been able to figure it out. We've been to Philly, we've done New York a bunch of times, Boston, Atlanta, Miami, all up and down the East Coast, but never made it to Baltimore for some reason.
We got to get you here. We'll definitely chat after this, but I want to move into this next question because I got a few more I want to hit you with. Um, very fascinating. You were touching on it, but I want to hear like sort of why the live paint battles resonate so well. Because I see it, like creativity and competition, it goes hand in hand. They're fueled by each other in many respects. Sometimes there's that subtle push, by your peers. Like I know I encounter it as a podcaster. Damn, they put out a really good episode. I need to put out one that's better. That's just
Yeah.
competition right there, or something more direct. I think of rap battles immediately. So, why, the live paint battle, why does that resonate in that context?
Yeah, again, I always kind of have that conversation with artists. It's like, why doesn't it get boring? It's the same show concept, different artists, sometimes the same artist, but it still wouldn't be the same because the outcome is always different because it's a freestyle battle and those artists are in maybe a different venue or a different city. So the lineup changes, the venues change, the rules stay the same, have stayed the same for 20 years. Um, but yeah, it's just like a never ending kind of uh, story for me. In that yeah, there's so many new artists today. Back in the day, I always struggled to find 20 artists to create a tournament in London,
Yeah.
especially female artists. It was nearly impossible to find female street artists. These days, there's hundreds, if not thousands of them around the world. There's artists coming in, becoming muralists from the digital world, and there's muralists coming in from the fine art world. So again, these days we don't even see ourselves as a street art battle anymore. It's kind of evolved into something even bigger. We're trying to collaborate with all forms of artists, which is why we started doing digital artists, like kind of digital art battles as well. But yeah, it just there's a really magical energy in the room that it's hard to explain until you've been to one. But it's just very raw. It's very welcoming. It's not a really over the top cool kind of kid crowd. You get a bit of everything. You got your art heads there, the skaters. You've got people coming from the city, sometimes maybe even in a suit that just want to just decompress from a stressful day and just come to Sequel Wars and drink a few beers and have a good time. So, it's a very welcoming space. I feel like we're trying to inspire the crowd. Entertainment is what we do. We're trying to put on a theatrical show, and that's what I always tell the artists. Like, let's bring your best, like craziest version of yourself to the stage. Like, we want to entertain. That's what we're here for. It's kind of the WWE of the art world, in my opinion.
Good.
So yeah, all that sporting kind of context and all the things that I stare at, I'm always trying to kind of level it up, level the show up, so it never gets boring. And I said 20 years ago that I told a magazine that I want to put art back in the Olympics because it was actually in the Olympics from 1912 to I think 1946,
Oh,
and then it got dropped for various kind of political reasons. And I've been saying that for 20 years and everybody was laughing. But what's funny is Pharrell just said it like 4 weeks ago in Paris. And obviously Pharrell's the god, right? So
yeah.
he says it and the world goes crazy. And there's that like art and the Olympics headline is everywhere. So it's amazing because now I've got that like whole new wave and people are hitting me up saying, yo, you know, when you told me that thing, like we actually need to do that now. You know, let's get art into the LA 28 calendar somehow and let's you know, put the art on the kind of pedestal with sports. So I've been saying that semi seriously for a long time, and I actually think Pharrell was half serious as well when he said it. So uh, yeah, I'm excited to kind of keep leveling it up as we kind of blend arts and sports together.
That's great, and I have a follow up question about that, but I don't want to leave this piece because you mentioned WWE there, so I'm definitely curious in that regard. Like in live paint battles, right there, does the audience play a role in as far as the entertainment? Like I think of, when I'm watching wrestling, I watch a lot of wrestling actually, and you'll hear like hit him again or get the table or whatever. There's this audience participation thing, and even I think of improv. This
Mhm.
podcast actually was born in an improv space. I think of ballroom. It gets real intense in ballroom and breakdancing as well. So has there been an instance where you have like that audience response or it gets really intense where it's like, all right, why are they leg dropping each other? Someone power slammed one of his co-competitors.
Yeah. No, we definitely have had some, you know, the I suppose the first answer to the first question, audience has a massive role to play. Like the audience, again, the show doesn't exist without the audience, as well as, you know, obviously the artists are key on stage, but the audience is just as important. Being in a room, and we've done a few rooms in the past where, you know, we've done some probably more like private shows where we've been hired to go put on a show for some event where it's not really our event and the room's not really there for us, and it's the hardest crowd in the world, right? Like you got people drinking champagne. I can think of a time in the UK when we were performing in front of the Zeitgeist, Google, Forbes 500 kind of audience, and we had royal family there, and like I think Musk might have been in the room, and you know, it was just this tent full of millionaires and billionaires, but no one was really there for us. We were there we were paid, I think, by Google to be there to entertain and just have a good time. That was really tough because you're getting zero engagement from the crowd, so the artists have nothing to feed off. But obviously, our usual show where we have 500 kind of fans that have bought a ticket to come cheer us on, and because they love XYZ artists and or they love the show, or it might be their first time, it's really easy to get them pumped and get them into that kind of WWE zone. And again, I brief the artists pretty well these days. I'm always trying to encourage them and you know, I'm curating that kind of artist lineup, making sure I've got the right characters on the stage that are a mix of styles. So there's a lot of stuff in the background that we do before the show even starts, knowing that those ingredients are probably going to result in an explosion of great energy and visuals. So we're always thinking about that, encouraging the artists to get up on those ladders and you know swing the like t-shirts, or some of them throw the single dollars out and make it rain, and you know they whatever they want to do, like fire the spray can and kind of light it up with a, which I don't endorse. They're very dangerous. But it's all happened. You know, booze has been thrown out and people have got injured. You know, it's pretty rock and roll. There's been some bar fights in the crowd, kind of debates over crowd members saying left side's better than the right side, and people are a little bit too drunk and get a bit rowdy.
Yeah.
You know, there was a bar fight in Kansas that was insane. Graffiti kind of beef sometimes comes into the room. I've seen fights with artists on stage. This was probably a lot of the earlier days stuff, but sometimes I kind of miss that. You know, I want to go back to some of those like rawer days of less curation, more kind of just go crazy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's all really important. You know, again, getting that crowd pumped is key, especially in the first 20 minutes. You want to get them into it, just like any sports game, and you want to finish really strong as well. So I'm always telling the artists to think about it as a freestyle rap battle. Like, what would they do? They would obviously drop the punch and the killer line in that last 10 seconds. So think about it visually. Don't speed off too fast and finish your piece in 70 minutes and do nothing for the last 20, because I've seen many artists that are absolute legends lose battles because they've got nothing else to do and it just falls flat. But if you can save a space and drop the punchline visually or put some words up that just really slays the other side, then that can just kill it and get you all the votes in that split second. So
Yeah. I love that. This posturing thing, is this bravado thing. As you're describing it, it's just caramels or what have you. I'm like, this is amazing. And I almost want to see someone just doing push-ups between, like they're doing their painting on there, because it's just like, I love that energy. It takes it back. And as you touched on, sort of, you know, what that competition may have looked like back in the day, and sort of, where it's at now. All of it is good because it's all competition. But when you think about things going viral, and I look at versus, the rap battles,
mm,
like your catalog versus my catalog, that Dipset versus Locks one, it was a lot of S talking. It was there.
mhm.
It's just like they all got hits. They all talented, but it's just something about the way that one was playing to the crowd that
Yeah.
elevates to a way that it's just like, okay, I'm in this now. I'm on stage with you. I'm part of your performance now.
Yeah, yeah. The Verses is a massive reference for us as well. And we luckily got Rolling Stone magazine actually drop us that. It's on our Instagram, but they dropped us the headline that it said we were the Verses of the art world, which is like $1 million headline. We couldn't ask for a better quote. Um, and Swizz actually reached out, DM'd us a few times saying he loved the show. So, watch this space. Maybe there'll be something down the line. But yeah, that is it. It's kind of, there's the egos, the personalities in the art world and the music world. That's all really important for us too. Like we want to bring all that to the stage in the funnest way. We don't want to create
Yeah.
an intense, like serious situation. It is all fun and games at the end of the day. Bragging rights, win or lose. There is money on the line sometimes, so it does get serious, but. Competition for me also means collaboration. It always did from the start. Like two artists going head to head it's a battle, but ultimately you stand back and look at the piece afterwards, and it's one wall where two artists have come together, and there's that like invisible middle line where they've kind of met there and kind of blended and had to like find like a way to work together. Normally, the best walls are those that where they kind of communicate in that last few minutes to make this like beautiful one canvas. So collaboration, bringing artists together for the first time, making new friends on stage, all of that stuff happens. And I think that's part of the magic to the show. So many artists that are big names now have reminded me that they met a lot of their, I suppose, artist network at sequels, either in the crowd or on stage. Um, and, we kind of maybe we get credited sometimes by artists for putting them in a vulnerable space, kind of creating that pressure cooker most artists wouldn't normally imagine being in, but getting on stage and like finding that confidence and that newfound skill to actually do an improv freestyle piece. It's different from what you're going to see on Instagram for a curated, social timeline or stories. You're not going to see the same, like Ron English, for example, right? He's like this amazing fine artist, absolute legend, has battled before, but Ron in Secret Walls, maybe with two beers in him, is very different from Ron in a gallery where he's had 3 months to paint an oil canvas like piece that's photorealistic. You're not going to get the same stuff, but I think that's kind of what makes it even more like inspiring. You get to see some of your heroes that most people only ever see through the internet actually live on stage, sweating, carving out something that again isn't really their signature piece, but they're having a lot of fun doing it.
I love that. And I got one last question I want to hit you with, and I definitely want to comment on that piece. Just lastly, when you said that last part there, kind of seeing like, an artist that comes from maybe this realm was known in this way, maybe changing the environment they're at, and you're seeing them. I think of when you see like an NBA player in basketball, and then they're going to like Rucker Park and they're doing a street ball thing, and it's like,
Mhm.
you can slam dunk, like you shoot threes now. You're really aggressive defensively, which looks very different to them playing under the big lights. So that's a
Yeah.
really, and it gives a more well-rounded understanding of sort of this artist or this basketball player, and the example I was providing. So yeah, that's really cool. I think it gives a well-roundedness there. Uh, so this is the last question I got for you. Last real question, because I got some rapid fire questions for you. But the so the Art of Competition tour. Let's that's I know that's what's coming up. It's coming up this fall, very soon. So
Yeah.
let's talk about it. What's in store for this year's competition? What are you excited about? Give us the rundown.
Yeah. So we went on tour after COVID in 22. It's called Support Your Local Artist Tour. That's what we always shout for 20 years. That's our thing. So we got out on an RV bus, did 30 cities in 65, 70 days, 15,000 miles. Nearly killed ourselves, like driving this bus, city to city. Had like 24 hours in each city, battled, got back on the bus, drove to the next one. So this time, learning what was crazy and what we never want to do again is we want to go back on tour again, but this time we fly in, fly out. And also, what we realized is we need more time in the city to actually engage with the local community outside of the actual party. Because obviously, at the party, you're working and you get a few minutes with people to have a conversation while you're kind of stressfully trying to produce the show. So we're actually committing 3 days to each market. We'll be there for five basically, but 3 days where we're activating. We're going to do an academy session that essentially is everyone's welcome, whether you're an artist or not. Come kind of drink and draw, again, kids as well. So, I don't want to say booze. This will be an all ages event where kids, and we get a lot of kids coming to our LA Academy shows, will show up 10-year-olds with their parents and just doodle with us for 2 hours and like learn a few tricks. And we'll have that hosted by an artist. And then we're also going to do an artist dinner with kind of key people in each city that we are working with and also just want to get to know. So there'll be this moment where we just break bread and spend an evening with those guys. And then we'll be doing obviously the big main battle in each city. So in different rooms. So it could be warehouses, clubs, bars, trying to think, photo studios. We're kind of just popping up in random spaces, trying to keep people on their toes. This time it's 12 cities starting in Los Angeles, as you said. So yeah, it starts soon. It's going to be the 27th of September. It's Surgeon Studios, which is a beautiful space. Obviously, that guy has created an absolute empire over there. But we're taking over his basketball court, which is full size, and we'll be creating a battle kind of set up on that basketball court, which would be the first for us. So really excited about that to start there in our hometown. And then we jump to Denver for the Mural Festival, and then we go to Phoenix, and then we just keep moving all the way into the East Coast. I wish Baltimore was on the list, but maybe we can add it, as a last minute bonus ball.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That sounds amazing. And even if you don't make it over here, what have you, if you're in this zone, in this coast, I'm totally pulling up. Like this sounds like amazing. And congratulations. Like and putting together a lot of time, a lot of effort and making it happen. So shout out to you and shout out to Secret Walls.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Yeah, the art competition, again, perfect title for us. We've been sitting on that one for a while. We just trademarked it because it felt great. So we just got that one like sorted, and it felt like a good banner to go back out again and just party with the people and meet some new folks. Again, trying to bring in new artists as we always do to the stages. So there'd be a mixture of kind of team battles, one-on-ones, three-on-threes, six-on-sixes. Sometimes we've had 10-on-tens. So yeah, you'll see a bit of a mix on our Instagram as we kind of travel the country. But yeah, we'd love to get you to one of the shows. I'm thinking, you should probably look at the Atlanta one, which I think is like the last show on tour. That's going to be a huge event that we haven't really announced the details of yet, but it's going to be involving Greg Mike, who's an absolute legend down there in his new let's converted church space that I think opens next week. So yeah, we'll be taking that thing over, which should be dope.
Sounds really cool. That's really cool. And you know, so I want to move into the rapid fire questions, and then we'll plug one more time at the end because I think it's always important to just remind folks yet again. But so I got four rapid fire questions for you, and
Okay.
quick answers. You don't want to overthink these. So I read that you used art as your first language. I read that somewhere. Do you speak other languages?
Yeah, I don't actually. My wife's Cuban, so she speaks Spanish as first language. But she grew up in the States. But I have a 4-year-old, and her mum lives with us, so she only speaks Spanish. So there's a lot of Spanish in my house, and I embarrassingly don't speak Spanish. And my little kid that's 4 probably knows more than me. Like he's sucking it all up. So I'm going to apologize to the family. But yeah, I'm trying to learn. I need to get back on that Duolingo and catch up.
I just hit a year on Duolingo doing Japanese, so
Yeah.
it's something.
I know that wasn't a rapid question answer, but yeah, I also just adding to that length of an answer, I actually did learn Japanese at college because I went to Japan about 10 times in my early 20s and was doing really well and then stopped going and just forgot everything. So not the best at languages, but I'm going to keep trying.
Here's the next one I got for you. Earlier you mentioned beans on toast. What do you currently eat now? What is your go-to meal nowadays?
Beans on toast. Yeah, I love beans on toast. I definitely, I mean, I miss English food. So I'm back in the UK right now for a week. So
Yeah.
I've been pigging out in the pubs, just like a good steak pie, or fish and chips. Pretty standard stuff. I know the UK gets a bad rep for our cuisine, but if you go to a good pub and get a good, well cooked homemade pie with a lot of gravy, which again the wife laughs at because she's like, "Why do British people pour all this sauce on it?" But yeah, the more sauce, the better.
That's great. Uh, in your view, what is the most important ingredient in building and thriving in an art community?
I think it's the friendship circle, really. I think it's networking, right? So it's you can be the most talented artist in the world, but if you're not out there banging the drum and making friends, then you're probably going to limit yourself on how high you fly, basically. So I know that social media is there now, and you can DM everyone, but I think maybe I'm again old school, but I still think like you have to literally tread the streets, like what you were saying, like walk the streets and walk into all those galleries, go to every party and space that inspires you, and just meet the people. Uh, so yeah, I think it's that kind of contact book of people you can call on for advice and mentorship, and yeah, just an opportunity.
Great. This is the last one I gotta ask. Sports. We touched on it a little bit, so I gotta ask, what's your team? What do you support?
Uh, in the football soccer world, I'm a Manchester United fan, and they are doing terribly for the last like 10 years. But historically, I don't know. I'm not I don't follow American sports too much, but is it what's a kind of a team in the same space that historically won everything, but these days just suck? What's that in the basketball world? Is
Wow.
that
One could say maybe the Bulls, maybe the Lakers
Yeah,
haven't
yeah. There
won
you
in a
go.
little
It's
while.
probably the Bulls. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So Manchester United won the title 10 years in a row and we won the European Cup and everything. But these days we've still got all the money. We just can't figure out how to win. It's embarrassing.
Great.
But I still love Manchester United, and if anyone's listening from the club, I still support them, and I sit painfully watching each game, hoping for a better day.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Thank you for indulging me, and thank you for being a part of this podcast. It was truly a treat to chat with you. So there's one more thing I want to do in these final moments. I want to invite and encourage you to share with the listeners social media, the Secret Walls website, all of the information they need to know to be dipped and know about the art of competition tour, everything. The floor is yours.
Yeah, yeah, no, I suppose I'll keep it simple. Um, Tour starts end of September. We will be out there every weekend, kind of in a new city. So just tune in, follow Secret Walls. Probably Instagram's our best, most active channel. So just jump in there at Secret Walls and feel free to DM us if you're an artist, if you want a battle. The slots are pretty much filled for this tour, but again, we were always looking for new talent for the next opportunity. So for any creative out there, especially in Baltimore, we need to find some artists there. So hit us up. there's a sign up page on our website. Drop your details in there, and yeah, we'd love to meet anyone that appreciates what we do.
And there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Terry Guy from Secret Walls for coming on and spending some time with me. And for Terry Guy, I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, and community in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.